This lesson is about comparing and contrasting stories. So like we've done previously, we compare and contrast two texts on the same topic. Now we're going to compare and contrast two stories. So once again, our learning target is reading two versions of a story will help you see how writers can tell the same story in different ways. So we're going to look at two very similar story versions today. When you compare stories, you find ways they are alike. When you contrast stories, you find ways they are different. So sometimes two stories have mostly the same plot, but they may have different characters or settings. These are called versions of a story. Different versions of the same story are often told in different countries. Now, like the two stories we have below, we're going to look at two pictures, and they are from two versions of the story Little Red Riding Hood. And we're going to see how they're alike and how they're different. I think we all know the story of Little Red Riding Hood, so it'll be pretty easy, but I don't think we know the other version just as well. So that should be more of a challenge. But you'll see how all across the world there's a bunch of different versions of stories, like Cinderella has many versions to it. Things like Snow White or Rapunzel, they have all different types of versions based on the cultures, you'll see. So as you read or as you travel, you'll see there's many different versions of stories, but they all have their similarities and their differences. So let's look at our two pictures. We have one picture on the left is from Little Red Riding Hood, and the other one is from Pretty Salma. Now I know we have all pretty much seen the Little Red Riding Hood story before, but I don't think I've ever heard of Pretty Salma necessarily, so that'll be a little bit of a challenge. So today for our practice of comparing and contrasting, we're going to use this Venn diagram we have here, and it has Little Red Riding Hood on one side and Pretty Salma on the other. Remember, your differences are on the outside of this circle, and what they have in common is the inside. So let's take the inside first, the both part. So based on our pictures, what do they both have in common? Well, if I'm looking at this, they're both girl characters. It looks like they're both being followed by an animal. Let's see. And yes, the animal is hiding. Now, both characters seem to be holding something. If I know the Little Red Riding Hood story, she's holding food, just like Pretty Salma is, so I'm going to put holding food. Now, if I want to get even more detailed, I could notice that both characters seem happy or jubilant, if you want. I really like that word. It's a lot better than happy. And they kind of both seem to not notice the other character following them. Now, it's okay if you didn't find as many similarities as I did. That's fine. It just comes with practice. So the more you practice and the more you analyze the photo, you should be able to see some similar things. Alright, so some differences. Let's look at Little Red Riding Hood first, since that is the story we seem to know the most about. So right away, I would say that Little Red Riding Hood has a red cape on, or cloak. And if you don't know, I'm adding it to our Venn diagram there. Like I said, I put all the things that are the same in the both column, and now we're going to start on the left side and fill out our Little Red Riding Hood side. So let's see, Little Red Riding Hood, what she has different? Well, she looks like she's following a butterfly, and Pretty Salma's not following a butterfly. In her story, it looks like a wolf is following her. And now I'm going to look at the setting. So I didn't just look at the character. You want to look at every aspect of the picture. So I looked at the two characters that seemed to pop out to me, but now I'm going to look at the setting. So the setting of Little Red Riding Hood, it looks like she's in like a forest area. And that definitely looks different from Pretty Salma's picture. She doesn't look like she's in a forest. I think that's about all the differences I can spot, but if you see more, feel free to always add those down, or if you're making your own chart, feel free to add those extra details in there. You could say something like, she's holding a basket, or a small red basket. Now based on the picture, I don't really know what's inside it. So I'm going to have to leave that detail out a little bit. Now if you know the story, you may know what's inside of it. But just going off of the picture, I can't see what's inside of it. So I'm not going to assume. That would be a very interesting idea to think about. What is inside Little Red Riding Hood's basket? Alright, well, so I filled out the Little Red Riding Hood side. And now we're going to work on our little Pretty Salma side. So let's draw our attention to that picture now. Pretty Salma. Well, right away I can see that she carries the basket on her head. She also looks like she's from a more tropical culture too, based on all the colors and her location. It looks a lot more tropical than Little Red Riding Hood's. I could say her character following her looks like it's a dog. She's also carrying different items. She has a watermelon, it looks like, and a rooster. And I'm just going to call that a jug of water. I don't really know what's in it, but it looks like a jug of water, so I'm going to call that for now. If you want to call it something else, that's up to you. Her setting of the story, it looks like kind of beachy. And it looks like it's in a town. And I'm saying it's in a town because of the buildings that are right behind her, or a village. Now, that's about all I can really tell from hers. Like I said, if you found more differences, that's fine. Feel free to write them down. It's always good to have more details. So that's how we compare and contrast two stories. Now you're going to be working on, later on, a little bit of longer text to compare and contrast, but you can see we're even using the skill of illustrations in the comparing and contrasting story detail as well, because based on our illustrations, we found all that information here. So a little activity to share with you guys is, when you're done, you can always share your diagram with your classmates and see if you can tell how the two pictures are alike and different with your classmates. Right? And maybe to add on to that skill, convince your classmates which version is the better version based on your own point of view. See if you can try to convince your classmates of that. And that's what I'm going to leave you with your challenge for today. Alright, stay tuned for other lessons, possibly later on.